last couple of weeks, most importantly during the dry season. Today we are looking at the menace of fire outbreaks resulting from fallen tanker explosions. And of course, not just that, fire outbreak resulting from bush burning and other extraneous factors that lead to fire outbreak. We saw what happened in California, Los Angeles recently in the last couple of weeks, and the transformation of a once beautiful city to a field of... in Nigeria, the last couple of weeks have shown that Nigerians do not learn from history. We have had issues of tanker overturning on our highways, and of course the resultant effect when people come around to school. A couple of months ago, a certain tanker fell on just after the bridge by Con Oil at Coca Junction, Niger State, where residents climbed onto the fallen tanker, were scooping fuel on 180 being subjected to treatment at hospitals. To throw more expose, I have two very wonderful gentlemen with me in the studio. The #1 fireman of Delta State, a man that has seen it all in the management and service of the Delta State Fire Service, country, and of course, and beyond, is the person of Barrister Henry Nwanze. Walk with you.
Any combustible material, anything that can burn, is fuel.
Not necessarily petrol.
So if there's nothing that will burn, of course there should be no fire. Then secondly, we talk about oxygen. Oxygen necessary, very necessary for combustion to take place. Even in the vehicle we drive, there's combustion. Combustion inside the engine. There's fire there, but it's for a purpose. Then the third thing that is needed is the ignition temperature, heat. And every combustible material has its own ignition temperature. Like as we have this piece of paper in my front now, if you strike a match stick and put on it, immediately it will start burning. But if I strike the same match stick on this table, it may not even burn. But both are combustible materials. So that is what we must know about fire first. Then when you talk about fire management, there are two things involved. We talk about fire protection and fire prevention. And
no, I think we are going to come to that, because that is where I really want our listeners to really catch some response on how they just...
It means that as good as fire is, as a farmer, you need fire to be able to burn perfume, your whatever. You know, you see them saying, I've seen a case of a...
Please permit me to... Okay. You're talking about fire is a very good servant. And the bad master. We've used that language often and often. Production of these things, fire was involved. There's no factory that works without fire. I just mentioned the engine, the vehicle.
If fuel tanker falls down, the next thing that comes to mind of a lot of Nigerians is what is it carrying? Then if it is fuel or diesel, then they start scooping. And in 1986, precisely, or thereabout, 87, we had what happened in Cocoa, where thousands were burnt beyond
was it Cocoa?
One in JC
community, yes.
That's the case in time that we can never forget.
Burnt beyond recognition. Yes. And it was from then that the public has always been aware to take decisions.
The mentality is that bad that it will take time, it will take the grace of God for us to be able to change
this morning. And some people were running with fire and they fell down. And definitely you and I know that's surely going to be the end of those people. Now, what is, Barrister Nwanze, should be citizen response to accidented trucks that are carrying fuel? What's in a saner climate?
For these riots are not reoccurring, yeah. And this whole incident, what they say happened, there is a bad portion on that road. That's where I'm going to blame the government now. Yeah. Because we all have to bear our own blame. That bad portion has been there. What has the government done about
of the citizens? There is a vogue now. Any emergency, not just fire. The first thing is I want to video and be the first person to put on social media.
Even before calling the fire service or the police, information, truck owner education, how well the government is only talking to citizens. They're not educating the drivers on drug management, on the need not to take drugs.
Quickly, you talk about, let me start from the last statement you made, that those days the truck will be going, the motor boy or the assistant will be wedging.
When they go into a slope.
That is equally very, very wrong.
Okay.
Very dangerous.
For the assistant to the driver to be doing that, it means the driver is aware that this vehicle is not perfect. It's not good.
They are aware.
There is a problem. That's why they are doing that. If the brakes are working perfectly, it should be replicated in other parts of this country. We know that that may not totally eradicate it, but the losses will be reduced. Let me bring the issue of Agbo.
And somebody is creating content, man, this is very callous. I don't know what they call this generation is somehow. So that is on its own should be condemned. And I think we need to give that reorientation that you need to save the life of the person first. Not about how many trucks do they have in Delta State, as it were. Can it serve the entire Delta State? We were here companies that are responsible for this to ensure that there's adequate measures. Now I know you say if you go to some offices, I know if you go around DBS and some stuff like you see fire extinguisher. How many, you go to most government offices and how many of those fire extinguishers are still working? Most of them are just there as decoration. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? If there's a fire incident now, you'll be shocked. Because we talk about first responders, like you said. Before the fire service will come, they are not magicians.
The first responders
on site should be able to mitigate the effect of that stuff. Now we'll talk about some areas now. Their roads are not motorable, they are not accessible. Sometime before the fire service truck, you know how big it is to be able to maneuver to that place. Man, I really praise them even within the limit of their resources and with all these, we're
going to reel out the
so these are things everybody should be aware. Know when they
citizens and the part of lack of your tenure has seen a lot of transformation in terms of human power, human capital development. It was in your tenure. There was, I think, an improvement in the remuneration. But now, when you talk of the fire service in Senac line, they have their they are breathing. They expect response from those filming, but no response. And time delayed is a waste of human life. And before you people come, probably loss of blood or loss of something, that person is gone. So I want us to interface on all this. What can be done in terms of to improve the efficiency of the fire service?
Yeah, thank God that you mentioned it. I will say kudos to Delta State government. Mr. Chedrak, you are a witness to some of the transformations in the Delta State Fire Service in terms of welfare for the personnel. I must tell you the truth. I know how many states have called me